Assalamu alaikum, my dear friends. It's very good to be with you. I hope you are doing well your side. The question I want to deal with is, how do we know what is real and what is not real? What is knowledge and what is not knowledge? I come to that question because I get the impression by looking at many of the comments of people who look at videos and channels such as mine, and the conclusion they come to is that it's very difficult to judge between one and the other. And it's for that reason that I made the previous video, where I went into my own credentials. I put my own history on the table for you. And I guess that's one way. When you buy a car, you can either kick the wheels, and you can open and close the doors, and you can open the boot lid and check the quality of the upholstery and drive the car and hear if there's any rattles or any bad sounds in the diff or in the wheels or in the suspension. You can do all of that. That's what is called due diligence. You check out the claim. There's some guys selling you a car, he's telling you it's a good car, but you are double checking, and that's very important for you, for your own sanity, for your own best interest. Otherwise you become an idiot, and people will just abuse you and con you. So that's the one way, right? That's the one way. But the other way is you can also check out the seller. So there's two ways of doing due diligence. You can check out the car, in other words, the claim, or you can check out the claimant. Now, the claimant is a different process. There, you look at the man, you look at what he sounds like, what he looks like, what he feels like. You get familiar with a man. And you can do that in 1 minute, immediately at first glances, as they say. But I guess for most people you need to spend maybe an hour or two, or just a little bit more time. So here this guy is selling you a car, and you are listening to him speaking, and he is babbling and he's telling you, no, this is the best car, and this, and I sold 200 cars, and I'm, and the guy speaking, the gold teeth are sticking out. I've got nothing against gold teeth, but he's full of jewelry, and he's got this flashy outfit, and he's got this flashy hairstyle, and you're looking at him, and suddenly your impression of the man, it plummets. It goes down a bit, because now you think, this guy's got too much talk. He's got the claims are too fabulous. It's just too much. And so we all have our ways. That's just I'm just sharing with you the way I check out the guy when I buy a car or anything of value, whether it's a television set, or whether it's a whatever, when it's a house or a holiday or anything. So those are the two ways. Now, when it comes to people who claim knowledge, you have to follow the same process. When you listen to a man or a woman on this internet, on YouTube, TikTok, wherever, and they're selling you a bill of goods, philosophy, ideas, life codes, a code for life, deep stuff, more important than a car. Now the question is, who do you believe? Because you click on one channel, boom, this guy's saying, you know what, you should follow the hadith. The hadith is, you should follow the Salafus Salih, and this guy's coming across so powerful and confidently. And then on the next YouTube video, you'll come and you'll say, no, you must follow the madhab. We are not high on hadith. Hadith is there to strengthen the madhab, but we follow Abu Hanifa. And so he comes across very strong there again. Now he's telling you less emphasis on hadith, more emphasis on the madhab, on Imam Abu Hanifa. Next YouTube channel, and the guy tells you, you are a mushrik if you believe in any hadith. How the heck do I make up my mind? Because they all look convincing. They all look like they know what they're talking about. Now we got a problem. You see, the internet is a terrible place because the internet seems like it's real, but it's not reality. The internet is a set of algorithms. Number one, that which you are sent, which YouTube delivers to your timeline, is highly engineered. Right? It's highly fabricated, as they say. It's not real. It's not the way it would come to you in real life accidentally. You don't come across videos accidentally. YouTube prepares by a very complex set of algorithms your timelines, and so YouTube is able to affect the discourse. And you'll be a real naive little child in your mind if you don't realize that you are your timeline, the videos that come up for you to watch, unless you have a set of video channels that you save and you go strictly to those channels. If you wait for that timeline, you are experiencing, you are receiving a highly prepared and produced timeline. It's like somebody bringing you food and they decide for you what you shall eat. So they all come across very convincingly, but first of all, they are filtered by YouTube. So the reason you get Mufti Menk, the reason you get an abundance of these guys, these eloquent rock star muftis, is because YouTube likes to sell them to you. YouTube has checked them out. YouTube has listened very, very carefully to their content, and YouTube loves what they are saying. And so the algorithm loves them. But also, why are my stuff sometimes up? And I'm a nobody. I'm very I think I should be very humble about who I am, where I am, what I am. And why is my stuff coming up? That's the question, and I sometimes wonder. I look at some of my material and I see whenever I have a seriously critical, a vehemently critical video against Muslim practice, it always gets 2,000 to 3,000, 4,000 views. Whenever I'm critical of my community, they help me to sell that video. They give that video to more people. And I've realized that certain of my content, they like other of my content when I'm speaking about when I speak about Gaza and about the global structure of infringing and choking the people financially and economically, the man on the ground, the woman on the ground. I'm restricted. Those videos get less than 1,000 views. So let's get back to my point. What is knowledge? You go to YouTube, you are not actually in a free marketplace for knowledge. You are in a highly artificial marketplace for knowledge. You see not the Anwar Shaik picture as he should be seen as a person who is positive and negative. You only see the negative stuff, and so you form an opinion. Or you see Mufti Menk all over the place, and you see what's that other guy's name? That Khan guy. I can't get to their names, but you see all of these rock star muftis and guys all over the place. And so you sit with a question, man, where do I go? What do I'm just a guy. I'm 40, 50 years old. I'd like to settle down. I don't like a lot of what these guys are speaking, but I want to see what is true. And so this is why this video is here. This video is here to look at those issues. Right. What you must actually dispel at the beginning is when you see the criminals of this world, those who are there to mislead you, they've mastered the art of coming across like a good salesman. So if I'm going to judge my knowledge by the claimant, I'm going to be in trouble because the claimants are all extremely believable. In fact, the problem is actually with those who are to be believed. The honest claimants are often doesn't come across as believable. They don't have that smoothness, that slickness, but not just that slickness, that refinement in the production of their videos in terms of how they are set up. Like when you set up somebody with a beautiful co-presenter, well groomed in a beautiful studio, with scripts well rehearsed, and with expensive editing having been done on that video, what arrives, what is served up to you is a very, very convincing piece of work. So I'm saying to you in this video, nope, don't go by the seller, go by the material. It's like these guys are all expert at selling you, at looking believable when they sell you the car. I'm saying we need to look at the car. We need to look at their claim, and that is the only way. Now, unfortunately, if you're a person going to inspect the car, you need to know something about the car. You can't know nothing. You need to know a few basics about the car. That is what I want to offer you here, a few basics. You see, we come to what is called, what is knowledge? You need to know because everyone, what they are selling you is knowledge, right? Knowledge is the commodity. We're not talking about a car. We're not talking about a television. We're not talking about the summer holiday. We're talking here about knowledge. Knowledge is the commodity. Now, what is knowledge? Knowledge is something that human beings, it's software. Right? It's understandings, it's meanings, it's ideas that you install, that you adopt, that you endorse. In other words, when you endorse it, when you adopt it, it goes to your mind, but it also goes to your heart. You become attached to it. It becomes important to you. That is knowledge. So when you install software, when you listen to Anwar speaking, Anwar is offering you software, knowledge. When Mufti Meng speaks to you, he's offering you software. Are you with me? So I'm here to discuss with you what is knowledge. And if I look at the Qur'anist guy and this guy and that guy and all of them, where the heck, which software do I take? Which knowledge do I take? Knowledge, what is knowledge first? What is knowledge really in its ancient and its traditional and in its, global sense? What is knowledge? Knowledge is belief. Knowledge is belief. Knowledge is the belief I hold. If I believe that the sun will rise tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and then I need to have a reason for believing that, right? So if my reason is, well, I've just asked Siri on my phone, and I've just taken Siri and I said, hey Siri, what time will the sun rise tomorrow morning? And Siri will give me an answer, and that answer will say 6 a.m. And it said, Siri says 6:20. It's on silent. So it's the belief, I have the knowledge that the sun will rise tomorrow morning at 6:20 a.m. And the reason I believe that is Siri. I believe Siri because Siri is always right. It follows certain, technical, logistical methods. And if Siri is wrong, it will cause a major problem. People will reject the software and the company will suffer. And I have that belief that Siri, my iPhone, will not be wrong. When I ask it, what time will the sun rise tomorrow, I can trust when it says it will rise at so and so time. But I have a different method. I could also use the calendar. I could also ask people, what time will the sun rise? People who make Fajr on time will generally tell you, the sun will rise at 6:20 because it's an hour and 20 minutes after Fajr. And I know Fajr is 5 o'clock, so I'm taking a long time to get to the point, but here's the point. Knowledge is what you believe to be the case with any matter, with any phenomenon, with any situation, based on some sort of justification for that belief. That is knowledge. Knowledge is not saying that, anything, any claim, like senseless and nonsensical statements do not amount to knowledge. Like saying, I hate you. Just saying like that. It's not knowledge. It's just an expression of an emotion. But let me ask you a quick question. Do you think it's knowledge if I say, I like biryani? It's a type of food, right? It's a rice dish. I like biryani. Now, is that knowledge? Yes, it's knowledge, but it's subjective knowledge. It's knowledge that is intrinsic and unique to me. Right? So that is knowledge, but it is knowledge that is relevant and unique to me. So you get two types of knowledge generally. You get knowledge that is subjective to an individual, and you get knowledge which is common and objective. If I say what time will the sun rise tomorrow, it's common and objective knowledge. It is independent. Whether I say the sun will rise at 8 o'clock, it's not relevant. The sun will rise at 6:20, and that is an objective fact. All right. Subjectively, if I say I like biryani, it's a different thing. If I say my family, we all like, to grill meat, to braai, what we call braai, barbecue. We like meat, like to grill meat on the fire. It's a subject. It's just a preference. It's a subjective. It's an impression. It's a perspective. It's just our idea. Now, if somebody says Salah is fard, Salah is, or let's take another example. Trawih is fard. Salatul Trawih is fard. It is incumbent. It is wajib, which is the case in some mazhabs. They say it's wajib. They don't say it's sunnah. They say it's wajib. Is that knowledge? Is there justification to that or not? So this is where I come in, and I want to say to you that when somebody comes with any claim, this is the case or that is the case or that, we need to decide, is he making a statement that is subjective, that is unique, that is not objective, or is he or she making an objective statement? Now, if somebody says Salatul Tarawih is wajib, it is incumbent on me, I've made it, I feel it's incumbent, and I've agreed with my community here in this village of Iklera, in the Jamnagar or whatever of India, we believe that Tarawih is farad, and we frown upon anyone who doesn't come to the mosque in the evening during the month of Ramadan. Is that knowledge? Is that something that community has agreed subjectively, and that is what they feel? It's like we say we eat biryani on a Monday night, on a Sunday. It's a convention, we've agreed it. But is it a convention? Is it an agreed upon practice that is compulsory and incumbent on all people? That's the question. Is this knowledge, is it unique? Is it particular to you and your group? Or is it objective? And that is, I think, the problem with Muslim knowledge. We don't have a viable and widely accepted philosophy of knowledge. And so, what Muslims do is they take knowledge that is in fact particular, knowledge that is unique to a particular circumstance or to a particular group. And then they extrapolate, because, for the fish in the water, he can't live without water. A fish needs water. And so if the fish starts ruling the world, they will decide, look here, you all you all need to live in water, and then we all die. Because for the fish, water is the air he breathes, and he will give us, you see. So when we take our unique environment, our unique conventions, and we start extracting it and extrapolating it and expanding it and imposing it on everyone else, that is what I'm talking about, that Muslims have a serious crisis when it comes to a theory of knowledge. We do not know, first of all, what are the limits of knowledge. We don't know what are the real justifications or sources of roots or bases on which to base knowledge. And so we go around becoming confused. We listen to this one, yeah, you must fast you must make travi during this other guy. No, travi is haram, travi is nothing, it's a bid'ah. So you are caught between these different silos, and each silo is a little mini world of its own knowledge that it now wants to impose on the next silo. What am I suggesting? What is the way out? We need a theory of knowledge, and as I always say to you, I've been in discussion with my dear close friends, academics who are teachers at university, who are researchers, Muslim academics, and I've been saying to you, you need to look at the work done by Roy Bhaskar. We must stop being so arrogant to think that everything must be a Muslim that invented it. But meanwhile, we want to fly on a plane that is not invented by a Muslim. Meanwhile, we want to go under the heart surgeon, and have heart surgery under a theory that is developed by a non-Muslim. Meanwhile, we want to structure our economic systems on systems based on what non-Muslims do. But when it comes to our theory of knowledge, we say, no. If it's not done by Al-Ghazali, if it's not done by this sheikh or that sheikh, bin Baz, or by Sheikh Ayatollah this and Ayatollah, it's not valid. I'm saying to you today, my friends, we have an excellent lesson to learn, and I'm not saying we have to embrace it as is. We have an excellent lesson to learn from this new theory of knowledge that has emerged in the last 20 years or 30 years called critical realism. And I'm going to close off by giving you the quick summary of it again. You see, critical realism is the first philosophy of knowledge that embraces both subjective aspects of knowledge as well as objective aspects of knowledge. You see, the Enlightenment of Europe came with a great deal of arrogance, and it taught the world and us that all knowledge is purely objective. You cannot have subjective knowledge. If it is knowledge, it is objective and it is measurable. And one top guy in one company once said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And that's the problem they have. Because the West is such a materialistic place, and I'm saying this from a very, from a academic perspective. I'm not running it down, in other words. I'm saying the West is a materialistic place. It really thrives on measuring things, on monitoring things, on managing things. And if it cannot manage it, if it can't measure it, if it can't see it, hear it, feel it, touch it, it doesn't know how to deal with it. Whereas the East and Islam, our deen, there are certain sublime aspects to it. There are certain untouchable aspects to it. How do you measure conscientiousness? Now the West will say, no, you measure it by psychological measures. You look at the behavior of the person, you administer the Myers-Briggs, whatever questionnaire, and they go through it and you score them, and that is going to give you an impression of the conscientiousness. But we all know those things are such a joke. How do you run a questionnaire? It's not surprising. Many people actually fool those questionnaires, and they register as conscientious people. Even the biggest psychopath will pass the test and become marked as there are certain sublime aspects to existence, to human, even to nature, that we cannot measure. So coming back to critical realism, the West has been great in telling us how to measure the material side of things, the objective side of things, the empirical side of things, but it absolutely sucks at the softer issues, at the more feeling type of things. And that is why in the last 20, 30 years you had the emergence of postmodernism, of bringing feelings into knowledge, and saying that this is how black people feel, this is how colonized people feel, and it's important to acknowledge their feelings, and this is their life, their lived experience. And so they brought that in as a parallel paradigm of knowledge. Now we, as Muslims, obviously we accept that not all knowledge is empirical. Like, how do you measure God? How do you measure if God exists? There is no empirical measure. At the end of the day, it goes back to, I feel God, I sense, I need God, I feel better, I thrive on knowing there's a God. So it's something that becomes subjective. It's something that becomes subjective. But what critical realism does is it marries the two. It brings the objective types of knowledge and the subjective types of knowledge together, and it says that we must admit that there are certain things that are real, objective, valid, eternal, timeless, spaceless, whatever. It is there. It is always going to be there. And for a Muslim researcher, that is God. Allah would be central into that image. What God is in our philosophy as critical realists, as people who seek and produce knowledge under the paradigm of critical realism, we have no problem. And remember, we are talking here about, when we talk realism, rationalism, knowledge, we're talking about rationalism, about the Mu'tazila, the ancient Mu'tazila school, as I've mentioned earlier, that comes from Ibn Sina, from Ibn Rushd, from Ibn Arabi, from Wasil bin Ata, from Imam Ali alayhi salam, from the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, from Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, from Prophet Nuh, and all these prophets. They were all rationalists. I explained to you why. Because they never came with a sword and says, my way, thy way. They reasoned with people. And when you reason with people, you are appealing to their intellect. And that is why I say we are rationalists, because rationalism is the way that Allah wants for this world. And the world is rational. The nature is rational. And we cannot but be rationalists. So, my argument is that critical realism is the best form of being rationalist. It's almost like you say, it's the vehicle that it's the instrument that makes us think better about the world. I'm not saying there might not be any other instruments. I'm just saying right now, in this moment in history, critical realism is really, really a sound tool, because it includes both the real elements, which we believe, like that God is, and there's no way that God cannot be. God's edict is, or God's kitab, when we say the kitab, the word of God, I think the qawl more than the kitab, the word of God is, it is the edict of God, it is the eternal edict of God, it is there, it's a real thing. But critical realism says to us that, you do have basis for believing that. You do have reason to believe that. And the reason you have to believe that is not an empirical, mathematical reason. It's not a materialistic measurement of, you smell God, you saw God, It is extended, means it is God is evidential. God is not proven empirically or via other means. God is evidenced, is evinced, And when you say something is evinced, that's a nice word that you learn when you do higher level research. You say it's evinced. God is evinced, which just means God is evidenced. Then that is, we don't need to look for empirical reasons, or like somebody saw God, or somebody saw written in the sky, in the stars suddenly aligned to say God, I am God. No, we only have to look at evidence, and that fits in so neatly with the Qur'an's tone. The tone of the Qur'an always is, look at the weather, look at how the seasons change, look how day and night follow each other, look at the wild animals on the open grasslands. Look at how your own body. Look at your own body. Look how it emerges from a merging of two cells. Look at how it develops in the womb, and look at the scars. Look at the origin of the union. So the Quran is always showing and pointing at this amazing, intelligent, what seems to be the product of an intelligent master or creator, and then says, from that we infer that God just does exist. Coming to the conclusion here is that critical realism offers us expanded ways of proof. We don't need to only now measure, and at the same time we are not thrown into the silo of subjective knowledge. Because once you say that God is because 90% of us believe God exists, then you are creating subjectivity. It's not a proof of knowledge to say 90% of us believe it. And the Quran backs that up. Nothing is true because the majority says it. The Quran says in one verse, if you followed the majority on this earth, they would mislead you. So there is no majority of people believe it is not a proof. The beauty is the Quran sets out all these beautiful guidelines for us. That what is knowledge? So what is knowledge? Knowledge is what is evidenced or what is proven. Hatu burhanakum. Bring your proof, bring your evidence if you speak the truth. And to close off, that is how you should look at people bringing you a bill of goods on the internet. Now, they are going to tell you, yeah, you must do this, you must do that. Then you ask them proof. Then they're going to bring you a hadith. And they're going to tell you, because Allah says in the Quran, Ati'ullah wa ati' Rasul. Allah says you must believe Allah and believe the Rasul. And the hadith, because it is the word of the Rasul, you need to believe the hadith just as much as you believe the Quran. The big leap that they take between the Quran and Hadith is the Quran is attested to. It is evidence brought that it is valid evidence. It is valid. The material of the Quran is valid evidence. When you go to court and you say, I've got the word of a witness, and it's not actually a witness, it's a guy who heard the witness. It's hearsay. It's hearsay. You cannot say the hadith is the word of the Prophet. In court, that counts as hearsay. And I have intelligent lawyers. I have Muslim lawyers, believe me, I have Muslim lawyers who can't. In court, they believe it. In court, they say it's hearsay. But when it comes to their deen, they buy the hadith. They don't say it's hearsay. Most of the hadith that we get are from singular narrators. So, not even from two. Not even from two. Even though the Quran says that you need to bring two witnesses. When you pass away and you create a wasi, you need to have two witnesses to attest to your wasi, to your instructions to your survivors. The Prophet never left something with witnesses written down. So the hadith can only be of historical interest, of linguistic interest. We could help understand the language, we could help understand the history, it could help us understand the environment, but it cannot be the source of what is divine law. And that is the main point I'm making. So when you listen to these videos on YouTube, you look at those, you look at people, you ask for proof, you look for contradictions, you look for fallacies, like the majority. We follow it because the majority said so, or we follow it because Mufti Meng said so. Those are not proofs. That is what Allah in the Qur'an also debunks by saying, those of you who follow their leaders, their priests, they will end up in hell because of that. At the end of the day, you need proof. You need a solid argument. Like you walk about, you trust Siri, you trust your eyes, you trust your ears. So you must also trust your instinct, your own research, your own double checking when somebody speaks to you. It's not easy. It's not easy, but it gets better the more you do it. But it's an extremely empowering process of getting knowledge. The other option is to surrender yourself to the experts, to those who tell you what is knowledge, and you become a pawn, a meaningless and powerless pawn in the bigger drama. My brothers and sisters, if you have any other questions, just put it to me in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Let me hear in the comments what you think of this. Give me your ideas, your suggestions. What is knowledge? Who is to be trusted? That's the question. Thank you. Shukran for now. Assalamu alaikum.